For the sake of your sanity, and if you don't care about me yapping about furnaces for an indeterminate amount of time, go to these timestamps for the explanation of 2 designs I showcase in this video. Now, for those who want to hear me yap for my bi-yearly Minecraft essay, this is the video for you. A very long while ago, I showcased this furnace array that performed smelting operations at roughly 6 times hopper speed, in a relatively compact space. And I said I would eventually make a dedicated video on this, and this is finally the video. And I improved it. And I made a bigger array. But of course this wouldn't be one of my videos without me poorly yapping about the nuances of a Minecraft mechanic, so furnace. The first thing to talk about is the furnace itself. By itself, it's a relatively simple block. Chuck in fuel, the item you want to smelt, and ta-da, you have a smelted item. The same thing also applies to blast furnaces and smokers, but as those don't maintain the same burn times, they're not particularly relevant to this video. But assuming it has an item that it can smelt and fuel, it'll be able to smelt an item 200 ticks or 10 seconds. This means that a single hopper can smelt 360 items an hour or 5 stacks in 40. Also, remember the 200 tick smelting time. This is very important for like 99% of furnace arrays. But with how slow a single furnace is by itself, if you don't want to wait for the heat death of the universe to arrive, you'd want multiple furnaces working at the same time to speed up the operation. Which brings us to the interaction other blocks and entities have with furnaces. For interaction, all you have to know is inputting an item from the top with a hopper or a dropper puts it in the top slot, the 4 sides will put the item in the fuel slot, and the bottom is where the output can be pulled from with either a hopper or a hopper minecart. I know, a very complex block. Next, let's talk about scaling. The 2 things that have the biggest influence on scalability of a furnace array is fuel distribution and smeltable item distribution. For 99% of good arrays, the limitation is distribution of smeltable items though. In case you're curious, the most common number of furnaces in an array is numbers that are divisors of 1728. So basically, any of these numbers. More exactly speaking, 64, 144, 192, and 1728. There are also 25 and 50, but I'll explain that in a second. Also, if you go on Bilibili, there are some more fascinating numbers for furnace arrays like 2880 and 320, which it's kind of odd, but like the main thing they all have in common is that they're all divisible by 64, which is a single stack. So I mean, I guess, but like, I don't know. But sticking with the divisor, 1728 is preferable, mainly because when moving items, you're more likely than not moving it by the box, so keeping it optimized for that is just better. The reason 25 and 50 furnaces is a very common amount of furnaces is that it's exactly 1 and 2 times hopper speed, respectively. 50 furnaces is also the limit of distribution without the use of entities by dropper lines to distribute items across the system while pulling from a single container. A little editor's note here, dropper lines aren't actually required for the distribution, it's just they're a lot easier. You can technically use hoppers. Hoppers are just kind of annoying to deal with though, because of their cooldown shit. Anyways, video. This can be seen in arrays like floppies, which use 50 furnaces in the dropper line distribution. I obviously won't explain that because he already has a dedicated video on that by himself, which I will link somewhere in the description if I remember, hopefully. Once you get faster than that, you're forced to use hopper minecarts. There's also box eating, but we'll talk about that in a second. Hopper minecarts are essential for faster smelting as they can pull items out of a container at 8 times hopper speed or 1 item a tick. This is the general limit of non-stacked hopper minecarts, where generally 192 and 144, which are just below 8x and 6x respectively. The less common one is getting items in the container into their entity form and distributing them across on ice to hopper minecarts to distribute, or the more common one, stacking a shit ton of minecarts into one block and making the minecarts pull from one container for a set amount of time. Box eating and distribution of items was a lot more common pre-119 because otherwise you'd need a tower of minecarts to keep the system from seizing. But since cart eating is a thing, stacking carts is just better in my opinion. There is ways to unload an entire box quickly without losing the box, but that also requires cart eating, so like, for furnace arrays that use stacked carts, to maintain the full speed of the array, it is required to figure out how to split carts from each other to put them into separate slices in a 10-second window before the next set of carts come in to maintain full speed. This is generally where I find that a lot of furnace arrays fall short, more often than not adding directionality to the furnace array. The directionality more often than not comes from after splitting the carts, needing a way to make sure that the following cart goes to the next slice over. More often than not, curved rails that use powering are used because of their simplicity. Although directionality isn't the biggest issue in the world, it's not something I'd want in a design. I've also seen some arrays that use piston bolts to move items across an array faster, but I really don't think the increase in build effort is actually worth it. I've also seen curved rails and chest boats used for splitting items across furnaces more compactly, but I also haven't seen a good array that uses that, so. Second note about these is, minecarts are kind of weird with how they actually deal with getting items into the separate hopper. Yeah, it works somehow. I don't actually know particularly why that works, probably something with rail snapping, but like, it's a thing you can do. It's just that these rails are kind of a bitch to put in, especially if you have a lot of them you have to do. It's probably not worth the effort. There's also chest boats. I mean, it's pretty simple how they work. It's just their hitboxes are a little bit bigger. so they're able to just stay a bit over the hopper. I have not seen a good array that uses them, especially at a larger size, mainly because it's kind of hard to load a chest boat with items. There's obviously other ways you're able to grab items from hopper minecarts in different ways. There's also waterlogging rails, which you can do in 119, where it actually goes a lot slower over a hopper, meaning it is able to pull 2 items instead of 1, which you usually do on like a normal line. So if you want to run something on like a 20-second clock instead of a 10-second clock, you can do this. Just a thing to know you could do. Once a way is decided on how to split smeltable items across the furnaces, you need a way to distribute fuel to all the furnaces too. This is also heavily dependent on what type of fuel you use, where hopper speed works for some items and not for others. Although carpet dupers are extremely common fuel source in smaller arrays, they're also the epitome of cringe, and generally you just try to saturate the fuel input as much as humanly possible and burn the rest. Since they have comedically short burn time, larger arrays require a lot of them, which leads to a lot more lag. So they do suck ass trying to just scale up. There's also a video by this guy who covers pretty much everything about fuel, but he comes to a conclusion I don't exactly agree with, and I'll explain my top 4. Of course, I'm open to opposing opinions, but here's what I think are the top 4 best fuel sources for furnace arrays. Blaze rods are a good source of fuel primarily in versions before 121, where autocrafters didn't make other fuel sources a lot better, which I will cover in a second. They have a fuel to item ratio of 1 to 12, which allows for higher fuel efficiency even when smelting less items, and they are decently easy to farm, especially with the general fortress farm. The main negative is that they do require a player or bot present to gather in whatever capacity to kill the mob, because blaze rods are a player drop. Kelp blocks are a fantastic source, especially in 121 where crafters exist, as they can be automatically farmed without the need of player presence. This makes it great for servers where bots aren't allowed and they have to have a half decent fuel source. They also have a pretty good item to fuel efficiency of 1 to 20. This can cause extreme loss in efficiency when it comes to smelting few items, but it's not too bad, especially considering that fact that it can be farmed really easily automatically. Coal is also a good source of fuel and is very easy to gather without a farm if you need it in smaller amounts, and is a byproduct of wither skeleton farms, which like everyone has. They also have a 1 to 8 smelting efficiency, which I think is a very good ratio so you don't unnecessarily burn a lot of the fuel time for no reason. And my most controversial one, which I'm putting at the top spot, coal blocks. By themselves, they suck a lot unless you're doing a shit ton of smelting operations in a small array, but they are my number 1 when autocrafters are introduced. Coal blocks by themselves are able to smelt 80 items, which is an 8 item increase over the 9 coal it takes to craft them, which makes them better in extremely large smelting operations. But since you're able to reduce it back down to its base 9 coal, you can smelt 9 items at once compared to a single coal block. Assuming hopper speed, coal block input into a crafter, the coal output can fuel 1800 furnaces in parallel. Coal blocks are also as easy to get as coal, only needing compacting with an autocrafter, and that's it. Also, at hopper speed, you can fill up something like a chest minecart in 76.8 seconds, which is 3.2 seconds faster than the burn time of a single piece of coal. They are also extremely dense, which means a lot less storage than literally any other fuel. A single box of coal blocks can smelt like a double chest plus 18 boxes, so like, it's stupidly dense. Can you tell why I like coal blocks so much? But as I've designed the furnace array for 119 plus, I never use coal blocks as a fuel source for a furnace array, but like, it's a thing to keep in mind. Generally speaking, in simplest terms, if you're designing a furnace array, fuels that have a lot longer burn time are a hell of a lot easier to work with than ones that have a shorter burn time. And I mean, that should make sense. This is why I designed 2 arrays with coal as the minimum burn time, because below that amount, it becomes a lot harder. I set up this thing to show you the correlation between fuel type and the amount of furnaces it's able to support. I try to visualize it. It's quite tall, but like it gets the point across. Like we have over here, we have lava, which can do 3.6 lava buckets to power a single furnace per hour. That's as much as it needs. It only needs 3.6 lava buckets per furnace, and that in correspondence is able to do 2,500 furnaces, assuming hopper speed. So as we go more down, we have 4.5 coal blocks per furnace. That's able to do 2,000 furnaces at hopper speed, and the more that it's required per furnace is how it drops off quite fast. So for something like carpets, which is 1,704, you would need in turn 8.37 furnaces to be able to basically keep up at hopper speed for that. Yeah, once you get to bamboo, which is like as low as it gets, yeah, you only can do 6.25 at hopper speed. So yeah, it drops off really fast. Now, for collection, there are 2, sort of 3, sort of 4 ways on how to collect items from the furnace. Simplest and easiest is just putting a line of hoppers underneath, but this is limited to only 25 furnaces, and attaching all outputs to a dropper line can do up to about 50 furnaces. For above that, entities have to be introduced either as a dropped item or a hopper cart to pick it up. Simplest is just dropping it into a water stream and funneling it to wherever, but I find that it is very large size increase of an array, so I don't personally recommend that. Second is having a hopper cart pull from the hopper, or having a hopper push into a chest minecart or whatnot. This is the one I recommend more if you're unable to do the next one. The most annoying one, but definitely the best for large arrays, is precision pooling. Simply speaking, you pull the smelted item from the furnace the same tick it is done smelting. Assuming you do it right, you can shave off the hopper underneath the furnace, but more likely than not, save a lot of space. But it does have one very annoying requirement to make it work in most cases. Due to the nature of precision, the rail path for distribution has to be the same rail path for precision. This makes arrays that have a very compact front end a lot harder, if not impossible, to maintain the rail path through the entire array. If you have all smelted items and need to send them to an output of an array under 50 furnaces, you can kind of guess on how that's done, so I won't say too much on that. For item entity form, you generally just send it to a box loader that is able to handle that speed. So for like 144 furnaces, that's 6 times hopper speed. And for 192 furnaces, that's 8 times hopper speed. This, in turn, since you're not maintaining the box contents of each box, can cause the amount of boxes put into it not match the box output, which can cause the array to eventually run dry of boxes, since most arrays don't have a preservation built into it. This only happens if you smelt different types of full boxes of the same item, so just keep that in mind. Once you get faster than what a single box loader can handle, you get to some more fun stuff. Unless you want to manually merge boxes all the time, now you get to the fun world of loading arrays. Also, there are arrays where it's just manual box loading, but that's stupid, so I'm not going to be talking about that. In an array of box loaders, it is generally best to keep the contents of each box separate, as you know that all those items are able to go back into the box without overloading the box. So batching the output of one box and then sending it to the unloading array is generally the go-to method. The best way I've found of doing this is batching all the items and sending it to a loader whose sole purpose is splitting the items across all inputs as evenly as possible and loading them into a box as quickly as possible. As a normal box loader, this thing will not work at all, as it breaks the box when it has no more items left that it can shove into the box, not that it detects the overflow or if the box is full. This one I have here is by Kristen, where I pretty much stole the dropper layout for the loader. With how it has full input dropper detection, it is quite easy to just block the next batch of items from the loader and send it to the next slice until it's done doing its thing. And of course these are 8x hopper speed, so they should be able to handle about 200 furnaces or so. So for something like 864 furnace array, 5 loaders will easily keep up. It's technically a bit less than 200 furnaces per loader because of transition time, but it's pretty close. Now we have to talk a short bit about hopper locking. If you use lithium, it really doesn't matter for shit, so that's a thing. But if you play on a server or whatnot that doesn't have it, hopper locking is decently important, as there is a ton of uncovered hoppers in medium to large arrays. You can just lock them, but there's actually a better way of locking hoppers that many people don't know about, and it's actually really simple. The easiest way of doing it is just not loading the array when you're not using it. I can't be bothered explaining the extra wiring requirements of doing that. If you want to have a 2-dimensional array, just know that it's a thing and it's really fucking cool. 2-dimensional furnace arrays are just amazing, as you don't need your client to murder you in cold blood when all the furnaces are turning on. It's also easy to just slap a bolt network onto them, so Also, I don't advertise much, but you should subscribe to me and follow me on Twitch. I'm trying to hit affiliate by the end of this year. Will that probably happen with my schedule? Probably not, but I could still dream. But yeah, if you like these kind of videos and you want to see me do dumb shit on Twitch, I stream there every once in a while. Feel free to come through. I don't particularly care. I don't fucking know. Rest of the video. Yeah, here you go. So I'm just letting you know, I have a list next to me of everything I want to cover about this furnace array. So I am kind of raw dogging the explanation here, but oh well. This is the original furnace array I showed in my storage tech video. It is very large compared to what I've designed now, but yeah, it has a lot of wasted empty space just around, and a lot it can be improved on. It's not fully hopper locked. I think there's 11 unlocked hoppers in the entire thing, which is fine for most people, but it can be fully hopper locked. And one of the big issues I had is that it does not fit comfortably. I didn't align it, but yeah, it doesn't fit in one chunk loader, which 144 furnace array really should just fit in a single chunk loader, in all honesty. Took for fucking ever, but I designed a new one that now does fit all of the requirements. It has a few drawbacks, but they aren't that bad, all things considered. So with the new array, it is now a lot smaller. Dimensionally speaking, it is just significantly smaller in both the top, bottom, and sides. Other than width, the widths are still exactly the same, but yeah, it is smaller just in general. I had to basically redo all the wiring logic for both the box loaders, the distribution of fuel, distribution of yeah, pretty much everything. And with it, I made it a lot more compact. I basically wasted 0 space. I bet I could shave off a layer. I just don't want to spend the next couple months doing that. So, you know. And it is now fully hopper locked, other than input hopper, which if you just disable or pause it, it does become fully hopper locked. It also now supports mixed boxes, but I also have to give an asterisk because it does have the drawback that it is now 50% slower when it runs with mixed boxes, and I'll explain that in a few seconds. It also now fits within one chunk loader. It is, dimensionally speaking, just a bit under. It is now dimensionally 46 blocks wide, or sorry, it is 46 blocks long instead of 48 compared to version 2, which was 49. So yeah, it now fits within one chunk loader, which is really fucking nice. And it also has a dedicated line to send to a chunk loader if you want to do that. It's also now technically tileable. Like, you can just slap another furnace, slap this exact thing right next to it, and it'll just run fine. That does require some interesting wiring, but it's like just a thing you can do, so I just left it. It also has some slightly annoying rail placements. Like, if you just look around, you have like this rail curved. They're not hard to do. Like, if you have any sense on how to do rail placements, it's not really that hard. I'll leave a link to a guide on how to do rail placements. But yeah, this furnace array has 2 modes. It has the full send mode, which will basically just keep chugging through boxes without stopping in between each one. And it'll just send it to this 6x loader, which is just a modified version of Kayzm's to be able to just fit the footprint of this design. Which, yeah, it's not able to, full send mode cannot run with this style of items, just because it will just overload it. Like, it won't put all of these items back into the box. But something like this is what it is meant for. So we just take it. We're going to take 2 of these boxes. And since it's currently paused, it will not run, obviously. Whatever this is set to is what it will basically stay as long as this lever is turned on. So once we turn it on, it will place the first box, unlock the lines, and it will lock this so this cannot be changed no matter what you do. And it will basically just place down a hopper minecart every 200 game ticks, pull out exactly 144 items, and it will send it off. And it will basically just go around. Once it hits this detector rail, it'll send a pulse to send a minecart to pick up the items from the furnace. And since I'm not able to run precision with it, I basically just had to shove hoppers there. It's not much of an issue. Other than that, I basically just have to send the cart back around into the system, which it has a slightly weird path, but like, oh well. To basically just be dropped off here to be able to be put back into the system. And once it empties out a box, which it'll do in a bit, it'll basically just take this box and then run it down into this box loader that is down here, so it's able to just recycle that box. And then if we run down here, we can see that this box is currently being filled up. It is slightly annoying where this one, they will start to fill up. This one will take priority like 99% of the time, but eventually these ones will fill up if it has a constant flow, and this one will overload, meaning these two are able to run, meaning it's able to run at 6x very comfortably. Now, I'm pretty sure it is possible if you run about 2 million items through this, that it can despawn items, but it is very rare from it. I haven't tested that entirely. I've ran 5 mil without it breaking, but I was also not running full boxes, so I don't really know. But yeah, I try to keep it silent as possible. It does have flashing dust, but it's not really that bad. So yeah, it's running through its last cycle. Once this box breaks, or once this minecart gets pushed, it'll break the box. It will stop the clock from running. And then basically what we do, we take the item, the box will just run through here. It will get dropped off into, where the fuck is it? It gets dropped from this dropper into this water stream, down, and then into here, which is where all the boxes are stored for the system. And basically what we do is we just take the output of it being detected from here and sending that to a pulse extender right here, and it will fill up. Here, it's already done with one, but yeah, as it's not entirely running off of all of them, you can see this one's still taking priority. It's not running at full speed, but like, it's good enough. Yeah, once it fills up all the way, it'll stop, it'll break the box. Once the cooldown clock turns off, and it will put it into this barrel, and then it will lock all of the hoppers. But as I've stated before, it cannot handle this type of box in the full send mode. So if we input, I'm not going to input it obviously, otherwise bad shit's going to happen. But yeah, make sure the full send mode is on, which is just turning off this lamp. And then once you have it there, we are able to basically run the 2 boxes through. So if it does have some like weird items, like it only has like a couple in the first slot and it doesn't pull 144, it'll still just run through it. It just won't use its full speed, but it's fine. So this mode can kind of, this furnace array can kind of just keep running through the box until it's entirely done. So it's really nice. But yeah, you can see it'll fill up with random items, but it will work fine. And since we're not detecting the fullness of the box, we're detecting overflow. We don't really have to worry about that. But with how this one works now, we basically just put a item into this slot, which basically just locks it, saying, hey, it sends it to the line that basically says, hey, we are out of coal, which in turn stops the furnace array from running. But since it's not technically out of coal, it will just, once this is done, it'll just pop that back into there, saying, hey, we have coal again. It'll just run through the next box. You'll see it once it all happens. Yeah, down here you can see it's starting to fill up with all of its random items. Ooh, so fancy. But yeah, see, it breaks the box. It doesn't put the next one down because it is currently paused, so, you know, it can't do anything right now. The drawback with this is that it does make the furnace array 50% slower. So it's only running at 3 times hopper speed instead of 6. I think the trade-off is fine for being able to put in like the most random box types. Most of the time you shouldn't even be running multiple different item types through a furnace array. Yeah, see, once it's full, this cooldown clock starts to pulse down. And then we send a signal through here, which pops the item to the next slot, which places the next box. Yay! And we also have this here just to power it, so you can't like flick this lever, turn off box preservation, flick it back on, and it breaks fucking everything. There's protection against that now. The original one I put on Team CC doesn't have that, and I'll update that when I get around to that. But yeah, since the box is now broken, we now have a new box. That box is now in here, and we can compare the contents, obviously. Here's what it used to look like. Here's what it looks like now. You can look with your eyes. You can see that's exactly the same now. So after a few tick warps and a little bit of time, we finally get the last box. Yay! But yeah, this thing is entirely hopper locked. It has one static entity, which is just this chest minecart here. Technically, you can get rid of it. It's just a lot fucking harder to wire, and I simply cannot be bothered to do that. But yeah, the link to this furnace array, the download will be in the description. It'll also probably be on Team CC, so if you want to go there and grab it, it'll be there. And this right here is the 2-dimensional furnace array that I designed. Just so no one says anything, this furnace right here is a modification. There's people outside my door, and I'm going to kill them. Just kidding. I'm not that illegal. This right here is the 1728 furnace array. There's also a single-dimensional version. I will only be explaining the 2-dimensional version because this covers everything that you need to know in the single-dimensional version. So with how this furnace array works, actually, I'll just run it. Yeah, that's what I'm gonna fucking do. I'm just gonna run it because fuck you. But yeah, fucking get out of here, you stupid ass bug. 7 items. The clock in the back starts to basically just make sure that it is a box that's going in. That minecart goes to the overworld, and it will be dropped off here. We do have to break the cart just to make sure that it's not in cooldown. So we place down 24 minecarts. We place the box which it pulls from. It will release the minecarts, break the box, and it'll be put into a 5-game tick cart splitter, which splits it out to be almost exactly 1 block spacing, meaning we're able to separate into its 24 slices. And yeah, so you see it comes here. We basically, once it detects this detector rail, it'll pull all of them back at the same time. On a instant wire, we send a signal to all of the fence gates to release the minecarts, which it pulls its item from. And since it is 2-layered, we send 1 minecart going this way, and then we bring it right back, for it to be able to pick up the item that it put into the furnace array, which means we don't need any extra wiring for droppers or anything like that. And once that's all done, we take the items from out here, eat the cart, take all of the items, stack them over here, which I've tested this for way too many items, and we send it to its own box loader. And I've explained this box loader in the video. Just distributes it as evenly as possible to all of the unloaders, which, yeah, it's 8 times hopper speed, so it's really fast. And we do that basically every 10 seconds. Very quickly, we fill up all the slices except for the last one. The last one's there just in case. I've never seen it used, but, like, you never know. Fucking get out of here, you stupid ass bug. I'm gonna kill you. Where are you? I don't know where it went. I lost it. It's gone now, probably, hopefully. And with how this array is, it does have one kind of annoying thing to deal with. It's not too bad in my opinion, but like it's a thing to keep in mind, is the rail placement. The rails is really annoying to do. The fucking fly. I'm gonna kill this fly. I don't have anything to kill a fly right now. I have a book, but I also want to read that book because that's my school book. Yeah, very simply, that's how all the wiring works. You can look at it in the world download. This does have 7 static entities. And, well, it's 8 for the 2-dimensional version, but 7 static is pretty much, because you need 6 for cart distribution, and then the 7th one for box distribution for those box unloaders. But yeah, you can see the rails are not the greatest thing to do ever. Once the furnace array is done, all the boxes will end up here. I've ran a shit ton of testing through this, so yeah, there's just a lot of boxes in here right now. Hold on, give me a second. I want chloroform. Chloroform you. Okay, don't run, bastard. I need a fly swatter. I'm gonna buy a fly swatter next time we go to the store. That's what I'm gonna. I have no idea where this fly is at. Oh well, I'll get it eventually. I don't know when, but yeah. But yeah, basically the bulk for the items that are smelted and the fuel. Fucking, I found the fly. Hold on, this fly's a bitch. Just letting you know. The fuel distribution is, yeah, decently big. I think you do 16 million items, if I remember right, when it's entirely full using coal. And it can hold, obviously, a lot of items. I don't know how much that is. It's like 3 million, I think. Or should be more than what you would ever need. It gives you a output level of how full that is. It also tells you how many slices of that is full. And once it runs empty, it'll pause itself, and that'll obviously be off. That's the light that tells you that it is currently running, and this is the input for the coal. You can also manually put it in there instead of shoving it through there, but like, you know. And this bulk is off to the side. You can probably get rid of it and then do a whatever the fuck it's called. You can put on a piston bolt or whatever the hell you want to do. I don't particularly care, obviously. For these rails, they're actually quite simple to do. Basically, you just need to put them there, and then break that, and you just snap them over and they won't rotate. And obviously you have to like break that type of rail, and then you can do it for the next one too, which is just rotate. And then for the next thing up, you want to basically just place the rails in that, break, and then you have your rails how you need them. Obviously, you can just keep doing that all the way up until you get up to all these rails. It's not really that hard. It just takes a bit of time. But yeah, that's very simply how it's done. It's nothing special. Someone could probably wire something better. I just don't care to. And with the limitations on the timings, this is the best that I could do. Once again, all links are in the description. If you have any problems, ping me in the Cozy Discord or in TeamCC. It doesn't really matter. So remember, I am a college student and I do have a life, sorta. So it may take me a while to respond. So yeah, bye.